Hi, I am Marga Gray, and I am the founder of CoordiKids and a pediatric occupational therapist. I am going to tell you more about the sensory lifestyle. If you haven't listened to the presentation on a sensory processing disorder, please do so before you listen to this one, because it will make much more sense. Okay, I'll put the video off so that you can focus on the slides. We are going to discuss a sensory lifestyle. First, we are going to see what it is, how it can help with self-regulation, and how it can prevent meltdowns. Also, how it can help you as a parent or a teacher to find ways to feel well, to complete your tasks, and to stay calm. Then we are going to answer the questions of when you can use it and where you can use it. And I'm going to help you to compile a sensory lifestyle for your child or for the children in your classroom. So if you understand the concepts of sensory modulation and the definition of a sensory diet or a sensory lifestyle, you should be able to develop and implement an effective sensory lifestyle for the children in your life and for yourself. So what is the definition of a sensory lifestyle? A sensory lifestyle is a means to meet the sensory needs of a child or an adult through different activities and sensory experiences throughout the daily life to enable optimal participation in necessary tasks and activities. I want you to think of food, although a sensory lifestyle has little to do with food. You eat or you feed your child and family at regular times throughout the day to keep blood sugar levels stable. You can certainly feed your child before the child faints from hunger, and if a child's sensory needs are met, they can regulate their bodies, they can concentrate on tasks, and they can cope in various environments as expected of them. However, the child with sensory modulation issues need additional regular sensory experiences to help them, in the same way that all of us need food at regular times. And some people need food at more regular times than others. We all know people who eat only once a day, and then we know people who need to eat 5 times a day. And some children might need more than other children. So some children might need additional movement breaks. Some need time with weighted toys or a weighted blanket, and others might need a quiet time away from the hustle that is so often part of the environment. These children need strategies to prevent meltdowns. A meltdown indicates that the child is overwhelmed and cannot regulate his or her own body towards calm and focused state of mind. When we talk about self-regulation in relation to our senses, we focus on 8 senses. These are all important to receive information about the environment and about our own bodies. The 8 senses include the 5 that we are all familiar with and which tell us more about the environment around our bodies. These include seeing, tasting, smelling, hearing, and the sense of touch. The others are the sense of body position. Receptors in your muscles and joints provide this information. Then the sense of movement, and that is registered in your inner ear, and it also contributes to balance. And then the sense of interoception, which provides information about your body awareness, including breathing, heart rate, digestion, and more. When we function well and can pay attention to the task at hand and can regulate our own bodies and concentration levels, then we say we can self-regulate. Self-regulation is optimal when a person functions between the high and the low thresholds. The high threshold means that we are tolerant to sensations and might even be slow to register sensations. For example, you might not hear the sound of a plane passing high over the building, or you might enjoy hot and spicy food. A low threshold means that you are sensitive to sensations and might overreact. For example, when I am tired, I always ask for sound and noise to be turned down. It means that when I'm tired, my threshold for sound is low. The child who is easily overwhelmed and anxious usually has low thresholds for many different sensations. In fact, I have seen many children with low thresholds for all of the sensations that we have mentioned on the previous slide. So you need to think about those sensations that we mentioned and see how you react to those sensations in different times of the day and when you feel differently, when you're tired or when you're rested. And think about it before you try to compile a sensory lifestyle for your child, because it will really help you a lot if you think about it and about how you react to different sensations. So what does a child, let's call her sensitive Susan, with general low sensory thresholds look like? Let us have a look at the 8 senses and we see how sensitive Susan will react to each of them. First of all, vision. Sensitive Susan finds it difficult to cope in visually busy environments, such as a classroom with many pictures, children and colors. A swimming pool, shopping center, cinema, and family gatherings might all be challenging for her. Regarding taste, she is a picky eater. She is sensitive to food texture, food temperature, and refuses to eat green foods. Smell, she finds it impossible to visit public toilets, some restaurants, and she dislikes some people because of their perceived smell. Hearing, she has a low threshold for sound and it makes it impossible for her to concentrate in noisy environments, especially with unpredictable noise. Touch, she is tactile defensive with a low threshold for touch sensations. Sensitive Susan finds a light touch, for example, accidental touch from a friend sitting next to her, offensive. She finds the feeling of a school uniform unpleasant, in such a way that she refuses to wear it on some days. Then proprioception, she avoids some exercises. She holds the pencil and eating utensils with a very light grip and almost presents with symptoms similar to low muscle tone. Her threshold for movement creates movement seeking and movement avoidance at different times of the day. She tends to rock on a chair, fidgets, and find it difficult to sit still. However, she avoids physical education classes and dislikes swimming lessons. Her sensitivity for body functions makes it difficult to experience hunger correctly, and she wants to visit the toilet all the time, although it's not always necessary. On a different level is rough Ronald, and he has high thresholds for most of the sensations. He is in general quiet and can often daydream. However, he is prone to be rough when playing with his little sister and can hurt friends without the intention of doing so. Regarding vision, he has a high threshold and does not always register all the visual distractions in his surroundings. He can cope in visually busy environments and as long as it's organized. He eats many different foods. He loves to overfill his mouth with food, and he tends to chew on non-food items. He seldom mentions different smells, and he enjoys different fragrances in the bathroom. He's often noisy. He uses a loud voice when talking, and he often interrupts others. Regarding proprioception, he often uses too much pressure when handling his toys and in handling his pencil. He can lean into furniture and lean onto friends and on his parents, and it can even be annoying to friends. He often hugs his little sister and younger friends very tight, to the point where they can cry. Interoception, he lacks awareness of personal space of others and of his own toileting needs. He doesn't take deep breaths, but rather breathe using only the top third of the lungs. Rough Ronald is a movement seeker. He needs to rock on his chair, to run and to jump. He often bumps in furniture and friends. He often has bruises without knowing where he got it. Some children with high thresholds for movement can be movement avoiders and prefer to be daydreaming and be very quiet. What is interesting about this, all these sensations with the high and the low thresholds, is that you can have high and low thresholds in the same child and also with the same sense. And typical with a child with sensory modulation problems, these change from day to day, and the child can react negatively to a sensation on one day but not on the next day. And that's why it's so important to observe your child very, very closely. And you have to actually upskill your observation skills. You have to teach yourself how to be a very, very good observer so that you can see what triggers which reactions in your child. Then you have to record these observations so that we can work out a sensory lifestyle. So this is an example of a recording sheet or recording form. So on this one, I use the sensations and then the environment and the reaction of the child. So that we can identify which sensations are the most affected or are affecting the child's behavior mostly. So I've named all 8 there. So you'd always date this because, as I said, it can change from day to day. And you want to observe your child for at least a 2-week period and get as much information as possible and as much observations as possible, because that will help us to compile a sensory lifestyle for your child. So the first sensation is the visual one. And you observed a reaction in the classroom, and the reaction was that the child is distracted by images on the wall and the movement of others, and that's why the child couldn't concentrate. The next one is taste. Her child refused to eat a cold and bland breakfast. Smell. The child refused to go to the movies and said it has a disgusting smell. The noise, the child was calm and content in the bedroom with soft music playing. And then touch, that was noticed in the classroom, where the child leans on friends and on furniture, and the teacher reported that the other kids find it quite embarrassing and annoying. Then you observed at the dinner table that the child tends to rock on her or his chair and can't stay seated for the entire period of time that you are enjoying your dinner. So that has to do with the movement sensation. And then proprioception, or the body position. You observe during homework that the child uses too much pressure on the pencil and tend to lean the body against the table and tend to sit on one foot and often change position. And then the sense of interoception, it was observed during outside play where the child had a wee accident because it was just too late to reach the toilet. So this is another recording form that I really like, and I usually prefer to use this one, but it depends on your observation skills, it depends on your experience, and it depends on your child, which one you will prefer, and you can use both and then sort out what will be the best thing to go forward. And once again, you write down the date, Now this one you start with a reaction or the behavior. So for example, there was a meltdown. Where did the meltdown happen? Just when you came back from school. What happened before the meltdown? Nothing specifically. But then you identified some sensations, and you remember that your child was a bit tired because it was a day that the child woke up very early in the morning, that the child had an assessment at school, and that there was quite a bit of noise because they had to, for instance, they had assembly. And it was a bit more noisy, or that one teacher was away for the day and 2 classes were put into one classroom, combined in one classroom. And then perhaps there wasn't much movement because it was raining, so the kids couldn't go outside. So then you see that there were a few things that happened that led up to this meltdown. And then what did you do? What calmed the child after the meltdown, or what brought the meltdown to an end? You probably took the child to a quiet area. You might have held the child on your lap and rocked gently forward and backwards, or put the child in a hammock with you or without you, and provided some slow rocking movements. Encourage the child to do deep breathing and to rest a bit, and that calmed the child down. Now we have a possible meltdown that can happen after school. We have some strategies. So in the sensory lifestyle, we can implement some of these calming strategies on the right side of this table to prevent the meltdown. So when you pick the child up from school, already in the car, have it quiet, don't talk, don't put music on. As soon as you get home, make it a quiet environment and send the child directly into the hammock to calm down. Encourage their breathing. And then after 15-20 minutes, you continue with the rest of your afternoon. Okay, let's look at another example. The reaction or the behavior that you observed was that the child refused to play. Where did that happen? In a park. What happened before? The child attempted to use the monkey bars, but failed. This child just wasn't strong enough to do it. And a friend was there and made a comment on it, whatever the comment was. So the sensations were movement, proprioception, and coordination, which usually calms the child. But in this instance, it didn't, because the child failed. So what happened after? What did you do to get the child to play again? You probably slow rocking. You could have taken the child to the swing and did a little bit of swinging, slow swinging movements. Encourage the child to do deep breathing. Then I would say a plan of action would be good, to plan what can you do now. Let's go back to the monkey bars, but I will hold your legs so that you won't fall, and so that we can see how strong your arms are before you go. And then you also talk through a strategy to handle a friend that makes a comment, because it might be offensive or it might just be a comment, and just talk through that and help your child to handle that. So you empower your child there. Okay, so the previous 2 slides were only recording forms, not a sensory lifestyle. Remember in the beginning I said that you feed your child before the child faints from hunger? Now we need to provide the sensory lifestyle to prevent unacceptable reactions or perceived behaviors. And I say perceived behaviors as the child reactions are not planned behavior. It is not habit forming, and it is not true behavior. It is true reactions to the input from the environment and from the child's body. We want all children to feel like Superman, in control, able to cope in different situations, and able to focus on tasks. We want children to feel empowered. So what are the essential things to keep in mind when you compile a sensory lifestyle? First of all, It is individual. No two children will have exactly the same. Don't take one, get one from Google. It won't work. You need to compile one for one specific child. You need to use excellent observations, otherwise it won't work. You need good recordings of your observations. Then you need to do trials, and then you implement it. And then you need to know that you'll probably have to adapt it along the way. Okay, when do you use a sensory lifestyle, and when do you use the strategies in the sensory lifestyle? Once again, it will be different for each different child. Usually about 3 to 7 times per day, usually about 5 to 10 minutes, 3 to 7 times a day. It needs to be regular. It needs to be predictable. The child needs to know what is going to happen. And it needs to be implemented specifically on those busy and hectic days when you don't have time for it. That will help to keep the child calm throughout that difficult day. And also you use some of those strategies before, during, and after stressful events. That will also help to prevent meltdowns and to keep the child in a good regulated state. So where do you use it? Also, it depends on the child, but it needs to be done at home, at school, at daycare, kindergarten, anywhere where the child is, even at family and at friends. And the different activities will be different in those different places depending on the child. Then, let's see, how do you compile a sensory lifestyle? First of all, observations. Recording of the observations. Then you identify 3 major sensations that impact on the child's functioning. And then you identify 2 activities that you can use to meet the needs of the child, of those 3 sensations that you have identified. So then you have 6 activities to use in your trial. Then you implement the trial, then you adapt the trial, and then when it's adapted and you feel it's ready to use, then you share it with a school, you share it with all the family at home and with family and friends which your child visits. And then you follow it accurately so that your child can get used to it. So it will be something like this. You have your recording form. You have identified some strategies to keep your child calm. You have identified sensations. And then you need the 3 obvious sensations, the 3 environments in which your child finds it difficult to cope, like the one right after school, the other one perhaps in the park, and perhaps the other one in the classroom. And then you start with the areas that impact most on functioning, most on the child's social life, and most on your family life and the classroom harmony. So let us have a look at a very simple sensory lifestyle for sensitive Susan. The activities have mainly been chosen to support her towards a calm and a regulated body, removing her from noisy and overwhelming environments. And it is implemented at 2 to 3 hour intervals. She is encouraged to spend time in quiet areas, to stretch, to breathe deeply, and to do slow regulating exercises. The exercises incorporate heavy muscle work or proprioception, and that is to reduce anxiety. CoordiKids, one of our programs, can be used effectively as well to reduce anxiety. So let's have a look at rough Ronald. He might need something different. He is visually unaware, overly fills his mouth, and you can remember all of the other things. He rocks on his chair, he has toileting accidents, and the 3 issues affecting his functioning most of all are movement seeking, toilet accidents, and using too much pressure. So the senses identified are touch, movement, and proprioception. And this is to increase his awareness and to meet his movement needs. So the touch is the sushi rolling blanket, the fidget toys that you can use in the car to school, the weighted objects. I've indicated there, walk long distance to school. So just park your car about 2-3 blocks from the school and walk that distance to school. That's very regulating. It will help him to sit still for longer periods of time. Also give him opportunities to change position, to stand at his desk, to lie down on the floor to work. You can use CoordiKids. Make sure he goes to the toilet at regular times. Then after school, make sure he has outside time to play. Make sure he visits the toilet. Deep breathing as well to calm his body down. Then, like late in the afternoon, use wheelbarrow walking or animal walks to walk from one area in the house to the other. You can use wall push-ups to calm him down, rough and tumble play. Then I have included crunchy and chewy snacks to meet his needs to overly fill his mouth. And then by bedtime, you need to calm his body down, and you can use a weighted blanket as well to calm him down and to help him to fall asleep. So first of all, we make, when we compile the sensory diet, we make visuals and charts. We discuss the outcome of the trial, not only with other family members, but with the child. The child is the person who needs the sensory lifestyle, and he or she is the person that needs to tell us whether it is working or not. So please discuss it with the child and adapt it with the child's help, not only yours. And then consider other experiences that the child haven't had before. So those need to be implemented, and you need to discuss what will work to help the child through that experience. And consider the child's fatigue levels at different times of the day, and also consider the sensory modulation and issues that your child have in different circumstances. So what will impact on the success of the implementation of a sensory lifestyle? Screens. Screens are really, really important. Limit the screen time. It really makes a difference in most kids, and especially in children with sensory modulation issues. Fatigue levels, when your child is tired, encourage to do especially movement activities. It will help the child to feel energized again. Also, poor understanding and comprehension of what is going on and why do they have to do these activities of the sensory lifestyle. Give the reasons in the child's language so that the child can understand it. There might be past experiences who makes the child resistant to do it. Avoid those power battles. Be in the same team as your child. Support your child, encourage and seek opportunities to provide positive comments. Regular failures is really impacting on the success of a sensory lifestyle. So prevent failures by providing clear and simple instructions, by supporting your child with visuals, and by creating experiences where the child can be successful and where the child will enjoy it. And that will mean that you and the child will be in the same team to work out the best sensory lifestyle for the child. You need to empower your child. Avoid embarrassment. Be very sensitive to your child's needs and avoid anything that might embarrass your child. And then many kids will try to get out of it in many different and creative ways. Clowning, pretend to feel unwell, and also to physically run away. But you need to be proactive. Start slow. Start with only a few items per day. And implement as much as your child can handle. And explain all the way that you go. That will prevent your child from resisting this whole sensory lifestyle. So these charts I saw on Google Images, and I personally find them very overwhelming and confusing. But there are many options for different activities which a child can choose from. But in my experience, I feel that children do not mind repetition of the same exercises. It is crucial that they experience success. And it's crucial that the whole lifestyle or program or whatever you want to call it should be predictable. The child should know what is expected of the child. He should know what he can expect is going to happen next. Otherwise, you cannot create a calm child. And the child needs to know that it will be easy. He needs to know that he will be successful. If not, the success will be jeopardized and the program will be discontinued and not done regularly. And I've had children to whom I've given exercises to do at home or a lifestyle to do at home. And then when I asked the child in therapy sessions, did you do it? Then they would feel very embarrassed and say, no. And then the parent will say, you should remind me to do it. But you know what? It's not the child's responsibility to remind the parent. It's the parent's responsibility to put a timer on, put an alarm on, put something on so that you can remember to do these activities at regular times. In a classroom, you can use, or even at home, you can make cards with pictures on it like these. In a classroom, I feel we need to attract as little attention to the child as possible. So what the teacher can do is to make 3 cards like these, one picture on a card. And when rough Ronald is fidgeting or sensitive Susan looks anxious and both of them have difficulty to concentrate on the task, then the teacher can just give them one of these cards. And then after a week or 2 of doing it on a daily basis, the kids will know that when the teacher gives the card to the child, Susan will, for instance, take the card, the middle one, which said march on the spot 20 times, and then she will take the card from the teacher, go to the back of the class to a designated place, and do that activity. She will march on the spot 20 times and return to a desk. And she will feel better and she will feel more in control. Rough Ronald might be fidgeting and the teacher might give him the star jump card. And then he moves to the area which the teacher has indicated, and then he can do the star jumps and return to his desk. And what happens is this way we avoid unnecessary name calling and drawing attention to the attention problem that the child has, the focusing problem. And the children experience success. They don't feel like a failure because they can't sit still, but they feel successful as they have listened to the visual command the teacher gave them. They have participated in a movement opportunity, and they are in a much better frame of mind to concentrate on their work. These images are taken from our programs. So you can use CoordiKids. It can be very effective in the classroom for whole class movement breaks. It's only 5 minutes, but it's also good for additional movement breaks for those who might need it. It's only 5 minutes of target movements, and the child just follows a video. So the teacher can literally put the video on a computer at the back of the class, and the child can just go there, do the 5 minutes and return to the desk. It needs to be practiced over and over again so that the whole class and the specific child who needs the extra input, they just need to get used to it. Children get used to many different things, and if you do it consistently every day, they will get used to it and they will benefit from it. So there is some magic regarding the sensory lifestyle. First of all, if it is implemented well and it works like magic. But an effective sensory lifestyle will not replace therapy. It will not make problems disappear. You will still need your OT. You will need therapy to minimize your child's problems. And you will need to work with a sensory integration therapist. And you will need programs such as CoordiKids. But you will teach your child also through using a sensory lifestyle. You will teach your child healthy ways to solve problems, and you will empower your child to take appropriate actions when he or she has difficulty with concentration, with frustration, and with anxiety. Your child will be happier and healthier and will be on the way to successful functioning in everyday life. The magic is that you teach a child strategies that he or she can use for the rest of their lives. And all of us need this. All of us have a sensory lifestyle without thinking about it. All of us need to move after a period of time in front of the computer. All of us need to rest and relax after a stressful day. If you teach your child simple strategies like breathing, stretches, and movement options early in life, your child will experience the benefit of these strategies and can be taught to steer away from unhealthy options, such as too much caffeine or alcohol, overeating, and unnecessary anxiety or frustrations. Your child will learn to listen to the needs of his or her body, to react in a responsible way, and to feel empowered instead of feeling overwhelmed. So CoordiKids has been developed to support you and your child. Please make use of our services. Use our carefully compiled programs. Use our consulting services. We're a multidisciplinary team are ready to assist you in the comfort of your home. Our mission is to help as many children and families as possible through easy-to-access, affordable programs and strategies. We are literally in your home, online, anytime. Thank you for listening, and do not hesitate to ask for assistance.